Hi, my name is the Last Goth Unicorn, and I wanted to talk about my January book wrap up today. I read a lot more books this month than I usually read in a month, so I am feeling quite proud of myself, and I wanted to celebrate that by doing a book wrap up. Um, I will say I do want to go over again my goal of reading 74 books, most of which are books that I have bought over the last 10 years. Um, I do also want to say that I did end up getting a book for myself, and this is on my list of like, I think it's 5 books that I was allowed to get for myself this year, and I found Blood on Her Tongue um, at a discount bookstore. Good for me. And I did end up buying it, so I wanted to hold myself accountable for that. I'm not raising the number of books that I have to read this year to 75, despite that, because that sounds awful. That sounds like a terrible thing to do to myself. Um, the next thing is that somebody loaned me this book to read, and it's like super short, but I'm gonna try and read this one in the next like week, and if it's interesting. The premise sounds a little bit like House of Leaves in a way, so maybe I'll do a comparison of that. But I wanted to hold myself accountable for those things just to get started. But now I would like to talk about the books that I read in January of 2026. And I'm just going to do these in order of when I read them because that seems easiest for me. Let's get started. The first book I read this year was The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. I got this book for Christmas, and it is like the romance book to me now. I don't really do a lot of romance. It's not super my genre. There's something about the I don't know. It's just not my genre. I'm not super into it. I can't stand when characters like instantly fall in love and are like immediately attracted to each other. So, The Everlasting was the perfect book for me. There is so much yearning and longing and wanting going on between Owen and Una. And, oh, I'm going to be spoiling things, and I'm trying not to spoil very much for this book because I truly think that everybody should read The Everlasting. But how good it is to die knowing someone wanted you to live, incredible, like genuinely incredible. Um, I I can't talk too much about how much I love it because I will just end up talking about the entire book. But I think that it's also a really good example of an author writing what they know because Alex E. Harrow has a background in history, and there is a huge element of history and how history is written and who history is written by in The Everlasting, which is something that I am so into. I do just want to show this off because I'm a person who takes off my book sleeves when I read books. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Isn't that lovely? Sorry. But isn't that gorgeous? Like to have that printed underneath. Anyway, it's a really good book. I think the hardback version that I happen to end up getting is really good. I will say I've been having this issue with the I don't know if this is a Tor issue, but it happened with 2 of the books that I've got in like the last couple months, but the thinning of the ink on some of the pages is so bad that I can't read some words sometimes. And if you've been having those issues, please let me know because I can't find any information about it. Um, anyway, it's a great book. It's a fantastic book. I think everyone should read The Everlasting. I gave it 5 stars. The next book I read was The Handmaid's Tale, and I read this book in kind of a weird mental state where I just kind of read it really late at night one night and then into the morning. Um, and I It was a fine book. It certainly is dystopian. It certainly is a little too close to home at times. Um, but there are elements of it that I think are ill thought out, and that'll happen with any book. And maybe it just wasn't for me. And maybe it was the wrong time period to read it because it just stressed me out. But I do think that if you are a conservative girl boss, you should read The Handmaid's Tale, like for sure. It's not gonna do anything super crazy for you, probably, but there is a specific character whose life is kind of ruined by being a conservative girl boss. And I think that that's important to look at and remember. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. The next book I read is Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. And I did not like this book at all. I thought that it was very boring. The tension was not being built for me. The twists and the turns and like the shocking moments were not very surprising or shocking to me. I kind of saw them coming from a mile away. And that's not, usually I will say that that is a good thing to happen with authors. Like a good author is able to foreshadow something that's happening in a way that feels satisfying when you read it. And I was just bored by it. um yeah, Haunted was just maybe not for me. I mostly read it because I had seen stuff that said that it was like so messed up and traumatizing, and like I had read Fluids by May Leitz really early last year, and so I was like, oh, reading something that's like an extreme horror again would be really fun. But I think that its length did not serve it well, because I kind of like I got the point really quickly. And I guess if you are someone who's like, oh no, they won't keep doing it, oh no, these characters will learn, it's a horror book. These characters aren't going to learn. Like they're the thing that I know about a horror book is that characters aren't going to learn really. Like it might be the current exception to that rule, but for the most part, in a horror book, a character is not going to learn. If a character is a bad person, they're not going to get better. That's part of the horror. Like I did not like Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk, like at all. I gave it a 2 out of 5 because there's truly nothing wrong with it. It is well written. It is technically my favorite version of like the people stuck in a location together kind of horror, but boring. I found it quite boring. The next book I read was a Voliere Candide, I think is how you say it. I did not look it up before I started this video. Apologies to the French. It is a old-timey French satire, and I didn't really enjoy it. I mostly read this or picked it up because I really like Horan de Balzac is like one of my favorite authors. I think his prose are just like gorgeous. But I did not like this book. I thought it was more traumatizing than Haunted was at times. And I was really shocked to find that like people in a modern time could find it funny. And I mean, I guess that's fair. Maybe satire just isn't for me, but like I don't know. Yeah, it was not for me. I gave it a 2 stars because again, there was nothing truly wrong with it. It was just not for me at all. Next I read Murderbot Volume 1. This is a collection that has 2 of the stories in it, and I adored this book. I love Murderbot as a character and as a series so far. All Systems Red was pretty good, but I really felt like the writing and the characters really shone in Artificial Condition. What can I say about art that hasn't already been said? They're like a favorite character. I really like the difference between art and Murderbot, and I like that how that is shown throughout the story of Artificial Condition. And I really like seeing a character like Murderbot who is so like cynical and like distant, getting these friendships and these interactions, and I don't know, it felt really good. I really like stories that also deal with like concepts of like what makes us human and like what determines someone or something's humanity, and Murderbot really hit that for me in a lot of different ways. And I I loved that. I loved that so, 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 so much. So I highly recommend, if you are into sci-fi that deals with concepts of like what makes us human, please read Murderbot. It's not for everyone. I can fully understand that. Like, it definitely would tap into things like The Martian, where I find Andy Weir's writing a little millennial for my tastes, maybe a little Gen X for my tastes. But I think that Murderbot could tap on that a little bit, but I highly recommend it. Um, the next thing I read is Cursed, an anthology. This is an anthology of dark fairy tale retellings, and I love fairy tale retellings. I am like huge into like Ever After High was and like is my shit. I love Ever After High. I loved the Grim Legacy was like the chapter book that got me into reading as a kid. So Cursed was like something that was perfect for me. I didn't love everything in it. I won't lie. I think that some of it I could have done without. I did not really enjoy the Troll Bridge. Notably, that one was probably my least favorite. Some of the ones that I really liked was the Black Fairy's Curse. Listen, which is just Listen is so specific to me. It is one of the things that really fits in my niche of taste. I love bard stories. And then I also really liked Haza and Ghani. Um, so good. Like the world building in Haza and Ghani was so good for a short story, especially. Like I was getting to the end of the story and I was like, I feel like I learned so much about this setting and this world that the author created. So I just want to give a quick shout out to the authors of these specific stories. Because sometimes it is really, really hard to, I would say, create a short story that like really hits. So The Black Fairy's Curse was by Karen Joy Fowler. The Haza and Ghani was by Lilith St. Crow. And Listen is by Jen Williams. Shout out to them because I really, really love those stories. And in the future, I will be looking into more of their stuff. Anyway, that is that book. I gave it 4 stars, just because there were a few in there that I didn't really like very much. Okay, the next book that I ended up reading was The Thief of Always, which is a middle grade kind of horror novel about a young boy who decides that he doesn't really want to go to school anymore and ends up getting offered to go to this special place, where every day there is the spring and then the summer and then there's Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas, and then every single day it repeats that. And you can stay as long as you like, and you are absolutely giving away years of your life to a entity. I read this in a single night, and honestly, it was pretty good. I originally rated it like a 3 stars or a 2.5 on Fable, I think, but I'm actually going to raise that to a 4, which I know is pretty significant. But it was a pretty good book, and I have ended up thinking about it a lot more than I thought I would. I think that I would have enjoyed it a lot more if I had read it when I was like 14 or like 12 to 14 kind of age, but better late than never, as they say. Um, it was really good. It was really interesting. I think the take on giving away your life was a lot more interesting than I typically see it done, because this was like taking away time with loved ones rather than like sucking the life out of you and making you an old man at 10 years old. And I think it was a really good interpretation of that. And I really appreciated that in it. Yeah. So 4 stars out of 5 for The Thief of Always. And then the last book that I read this month is The Nightmare Society Volume 1, which is a like super indie horror anthology that I got for Christmas, and it felt like a bunch of little short horror stories written by, I don't know, I want to say like 17 to 22-year-old boys. And honestly, it wasn't bad. There was nothing really wrong with the stories. There was nothing like fantastic about them. There was nothing terrible about them. I really liked specifically, there was a magical line just like in the middle of one of the stories where somebody, it, I can't exactly remember the context, but it was like this person, like he caught it like a disease, but it was like he was like catching an item or something. And I just thought that the way it was phrased was so like I don't know. There was just something about it that I thought was so magical. And I really appreciated that. So I ended up giving it a 3.5. Um, because there was, I was gonna give it a 4, but I showed some of the art to a friend of mine, and they were able to identify that some of the art had been like drawn over from horror movies. And I don't know, that just kind of broke my heart a little bit. I wish that the art had been a little bit more original, but otherwise, it was a really, really, really good, like, enjoyable time. Like, there was truly nothing wrong with it. um, but that is my last book. That is all 8 books that I read in January this year. I had a great time reading them. I read a lot of them in just like single nights because I was feeling a little zany, a little crazy. But yeah, I'm hoping I can keep up some of this steam and get to my goal by the end of the year. If you have ever read any of these books, please let me know what you thought about them, especially if you have read The Everlasting or Haunted, which were, I think, my two, I would put them at my two, my highest and my lowest. If you have read those, let me know what you thought. Let me know if you hated them. Let me know if you loved them. Especially if you really liked Haunted. I would love to know what about it you really liked. If you really didn't like The Everlasting, I would really like to know what you didn't like about The Everlasting. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for being here. If you are still here, give my video a like, please. You can give it a comment. Tell me that I look weird because I didn't do my eyebrows today or something like that. Yeah, thank you so much, and I will hopefully see you next time.